What can you do to obtain inner healing? Ask the Lord to forgive your transgressions. You must do some serious soul-searching, and ask yourself the question, what in my life displeases God? These sins include the bad things you did to others, the sins committed solely against God, as well as the good things you failed to do. David asked God for forgiveness of his sins, as he had immense internal struggles because of the sins of lust, adultery, and murder which he committed. Psalm 51 verses 1-3, 7 and 9. There are many atheists, skeptics, and former criminals who do not shy away from asking people whom they did wrong things to, for forgiveness. They, however, never ask God to forgive them. It therefore means that they have a huge debt that still needs to be paid. It cannot be cancelled until they do so. Jesus himself taught that asking for God's forgiveness should form part of everyone's daily prayers. Luke 11 verse 4. A common transgression that takes a huge toll on Christians, even after many years, is that they have always put their employment before God. As a result, He never had the first place in their lives. Ask God to forgive you for this, and to help you to never again give preference to your work or other things, instead of Him. Trust the Lord to help you let go of other undesirable or spiritually destructive habits as well, so that these may not easily recur. Realize that the Lord is rich in grace and mercy. He is a giving and forgiving God. It is worth noting that if God was not merciful and gracious, His people would have sinned less. This is because many sins are committed with the knowledge or belief that they will be forgiven when they pray for forgiveness later on. God, however, delights in requests for forgiveness where people did not sin intentionally, but genuinely made a mistake. If you sincerely regret and ask forgiveness for the wrong things you did to others, He will also genuinely forgive you. He will not condemn you then, but declare you completely free. Just like the woman who was found guilty of adultery, just because you have been convicted, does not mean you have to be condemned. The law convicted the woman, but grace prevented her from being condemned. In spite of her conviction, the law of Moses condemned her because of her sin, but the grace of Christ removed her condemnation. John 8 verses 5 and 11. It was this that set her free after being condemned to death. Irrespective of any bad things you may have done, you are, were, and always will be special and important to the Lord. Isaiah 43 verse 4. Jesus came into the world so that man would come to Him. He cares about every aspect of your life and therefore invites you to go to Him for relief from your spiritual exhaustion and baggage. Matthew 11 verse 28. Give your life completely over to the Lord. There are many who say they trust Jesus, but what do they trust Him with? It is true that a person will not get into a car if he does not trust the driver. Trust Jesus with your life. Unlike others, if you completely surrender your life to Him, He will not destroy it, but will protect you from this evil world. Also ask Him to heal you on the inside, in your innermost being. Give your burdens and shame to the Lord in prayer, and lay them down at the cross of Jesus, so that you no longer have to bear them. Christians also bear unnecessary burdens due to sin. Even though a person can help someone else to carry their burdens, only Jesus can take the burden of sin away from you. According to Isaiah 53 verse 4, Jesus the Messiah is the one who bore your sorrows. He is the one who is able to give grace for disgrace. Although other people can be used as instruments of healing, only Christ Jesus can truly heal, make whole, your broken heart and deliver you from your pain. Luke 4 verse 18. The Lord must perform an inner operation, for the inner wounds you have sustained. He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds. Psalm 147 verse 3. God is able to heal that which has been broken, but only if the broke things are given to him. He heals from the inside out, just as with a bodily, external, wound. It takes time for the wounds of the inner man to heal. It does not happen overnight. Thus you need to be patient with yourself before expecting significant improvement. Isaiah 53 verse 5 also says that, "It is by the wounds of Jesus that your wounds are healed." Forgive yourself. It is true that you cannot simply undo bad deeds or unsin. You cannot, for example, unsleep with a mistress, unsmoke cocaine, undrink alcohol, or unsteal money. If you have genuinely asked God for forgiveness, it is important to let go of the bad deeds or negative things you have done. If you know that God no longer remembers your sin, you need to rest in this truth. Psalm 103 verse 12. Even a person whose bad deeds include causing the loss of someone else's life, also needs to forgive himself and to be forgiven by others. This might have occurred through his driving under the influence of alcohol, or even by deliberately committing murder. Perhaps you sought forgiveness from God, and were also forgiven by those you have wronged, or their loved ones, yet you still allow yourself to be haunted by the bad things you did. Ask God for grace to change your perspective in life. This is critical for you to be able to forgive yourself. A change in the way you see yourself will help you realize that even though you are not as good as you should be, you are not as bad as you were before. You are not how and what people say you are. It cannot be that you say you believe God has forgiven you, yet there is failure on your part to forgive yourself. You must therefore consider the fact that this failure will hold you back, and hinder you from progressing well in life. Times in which you have been hurt, or suffered a lot emotionally, can be a time of much growth as well. If you had never experienced the hurt, you would perhaps never have developed the fine characteristics that you have now, or have served others with help like you are currently doing. In Romans 5 verses 3 and 4, Paul encouraged the believers that tribulation worketh patience, and patience, experience, and experience, hope. After having lost his lucrative business and 10 children, Job also realized the spiritual and emotional growth that would result from his struggles when he said, "But he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold." Job 23 verse 10. These would serve to trigger further growth. If your outlook on life has changed, it will especially be observable in the things you say and the manner in which you speak. There will thus be fewer expressions of distress, failure, weakness, and inability. Such negative expressions have never been characteristic of success in life. You will then not merely start to speak more positive things, but rather utter more words of faith. Ask others you have wronged for forgiveness. This requires you to humble yourself. You will first need to do some careful consideration. Ask God to give you the necessary insight that you may identify what you did wrong, and to whom you did wrong. God must open your eyes to see inside yourself. Some people are, for example, not aware of the fact that their conduct is always characterized by aggression toward others, including people who they do not really know and those who never did them any wrong. Joseph's brothers asked him to forgive them for all the bad things they did to him. Genesis 50 verse 17. Before you do it, ask the Lord to prepare their hearts so that they may accept your apology, that is, your request for forgiveness. This is what Jacob had to do regarding his brother Esau. as he had not yet forgiven Jacob for stealing his birthright. Genesis 32 verse 11. Afterward, determine how, when, and where you will try to reconcile. If necessary, ask someone whom both of you respect to mediate the conversation. Do not be afraid of possible tears. If you must, wear sunglasses or dark spectacles, or do not look at the person directly if you are afraid that the words will not be expressed properly, or due to fear that you may cry and appear weak and vulnerable. The important thing is that your desire for forgiveness must be expressed in sincerity, lest these be empty, meaningless words. It can even be communicated through a phone call, a video call, a letter, an email, or making a voice or video recording, which you can also send to the person using your cell phone or computer. Do not be like many people who refuse to apologize for the wrong and evil things they did or were a part of. These people do not only refuse to say sorry to man, but are also unrepentant of these sins before God. They simply do not show any remorse. This especially includes political leaders who were directly and indirectly involved in the maiming, murder, and marginalization of others because they believed that they were fighting a just cause. They are proud to say they were liberation fighters. They however fail or refuse to recognize that, regardless of the cause, there is no biblical justification for the sinful methods that they used in their particular struggle. Forgive others. Ask the Lord for grace that you may be able to do so, even though it might be very difficult to do. Everyone needs complete forgiveness. No one wants to hear the commonly used phrase, "I will forgive, but I won't forget." One of the main reasons why a person does not want to forgive someone else is that he wants the other person to feel and experience some kind of pain. Because he has been hurt by the other person must also be hurt and suffer in turn. Failure to forgive will, however, not only hold those who have wronged you prisoner for many years, but since it basically depends on you, you are the main party that will be held captive by this unforgiveness. This is a powerful stronghold of Satan that prevents you from moving on and moving forward effectively in life. People who deceived, harmed or disappointed you, all need to be forgiven. To many, this might indeed sound easier said than done. It does not matter what the wrong things are that they did to you, or under what circumstances they have done these things. It also does not matter how many times they did you wrong. Many people want God to forgive them multiple times, yet they are not willing to forgive their brother even once. Peter wanted to know whether there comes a point at which one is justified in not forgiving someone else. He would not have asked something like that if he carefully considered the question, "How many times must my brother forgive me if I sin against him?" Jesus, however, told Peter that he had to forgive his brother until 70 times 7. That is, multiple times, not 490 times. Matthew 18 verses 21 and 22. In so doing, the forgiver will especially be the one being set free from feelings of bitterness, anger, and hatred that resulted from his unwillingness to forgive. The dying prayer of Stephen, after the people violently stoned him, is most exemplary. "Lord, lay not this sin to their charge." Acts 7 verse 60.